Thank you, Mr. Stinchfield, for joining us today. I'm going to read aloud the simple rules for this vetting session. No one is allowed to be in the room except for us. All electronics in the room should be turned off except for those used by the vetting committee, including laptops, camera, and audio equipment used for recording. Cell phones should be turned off to avoid interruption of the recording. No written material or notes will be taken except for those taken by the vetting committee. North Texas Council vetting panel members and candidates, along with company, agree that all questions and responses at this vetting session are to remain confidential until all videos are uploaded to the North Texas Council and/or alternate websites and are considered public information. Verbal questions will be asked today, and verbal responses will be given by the candidate, limited to 1 or 2 minutes as instructed.
Gotcha.
Hand signals will be given to you to indicate 15 seconds, and then the stop hand signal will indicate that you're out of time.
Okay.
The candidate will receive a copy of the vetting interview recording in DVD format, and once the video has been uploaded to the North Texas Council or alternate websites. Again, Mr. Stinchfield, we would like to thank you for joining us today and taking time away from your busy schedule.
Happy to do it.
All right, we will go around the table to introduce ourselves briefly. My name is Adrian Salisis. I'm from Grapevine, and I represent the North Texas Council and the We the People of Texas.org.
Thank you for being here, Adrian.
I am Ross Kessig. I'm from Irving, Texas, and I'm also with the North Texas Council, and thank you, Mr. Stinchfield, for joining us today.
No, thank you, Ross, as well.
Mr. Stinchfield, would you please tell us what office you are running for, tell us about yourself, and give us a 2-minute self-bio.
I'm running in the Republican primary, Congressional District 24 here in Texas, against Kenny Marchant. The district basically goes from Carrollton, Capel, Irving, all the way across 183 through the mid-cities, South Lake, Colleyville. It does pick up Addison and parts of Dallas. So before I started running for this race, I worked for Channel 5 for nearly a decade, in TV news for 20 years. I learned a lot of things about investigations, but most importantly, I got tired of interviewing career politicians who, quite frankly, had no common sense and tried to complicate the issues, speak over the American people, I think in an effort to simply up their level of self-importance. I had uncovered a story that General Motors was going to buy a suite at Cowboy Stadium just after they had gotten bailed out. I started to work on that story without even telling my bosses. Next thing you know, I get hauled into the general manager's office, and they said, "You will never work on that story again." That was the moment when I realized I had to get out of TV news, and the only way for me to affect the kind of change that I wanted to affect on this country was to run for United States Congress and send career politicians packing. Because the go along to get along mentality has gotten this country into a huge mess. Now I like to say I'm a Texas oil man. I own Quick Car of Irving, a Texas oil change business in Irving. I live in Las Colinas. I have a wife, Amy Vanderoff, who hosts Good Morning Texas, and a 3-year-old son. He'll be 3 in June. I believe we need to get back to the basics, and I believe in limited government, and I'm just tired of Washington's nonsense. It's got to end.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. This is a 3-part question. What is your vision for the state of Texas? What are the 4 top goals to attain your vision? And what are your current plans to achieve your vision?
So my goals for the state of Texas, and I'll probably have to have you review some of the questions as we go, are very similar to the same goals I have for the United States. I mean, Texas is doing better than most states in this country. But the bottom line is we need to improve the economy. Even in Texas, as I go knocking on doors, and we've been running since September, I've knocked on thousands of doors. It is amazing to me how many people are still out of work. And we hear about Texas's great economy, which it is better than the rest of the country, but it is still struggling. We need to improve the real estate market. There are many people out there struggling to sell their homes. We need to get back to the basics, get Dodd-Frank out of the way, which is a bill that put many regulations on the banking industry, which makes it very hard for banks to give loans, which in turn makes it very hard for people to buy houses, which in turn makes it hard to sell houses. I believe we need to do a better job of unleashing our energy resources. We need to drill more, and we need to get the federal government out of the way. That means getting the EPA out of the way. I believe doing away with the EPA altogether. And of course, we need to do a terrific job of protecting life. I'm a strong social conservative and respect marriage. So we need to just get back to the basics. The Constitution gave us a limited government. We need to get back to limited government. You can say that for Texas. You can say that for the United States of America.
Okay, so you've sort of answered 1 and 2. So what are your current plans to achieve those goals?
So as I said, the best way for me to affect change was to run for Congress. And so we have been running now since September. And I believe that career politicians are out of touch with the people that they represent. So one of the ways to affect change is, for me as an investigative reporter, to be in Washington is to uncover and expose waste, fraud, and abuse. But it's not just the mission of uncovering that, it's the mission of letting people back home know exactly what's going on. So I say don't vote for Grant Stinchfield, the man. What I want people to do is vote for my mission, so I can inform them back home and we can create this power vacuum that now when we get so many people behind us to stop Washington's nonsense, the career politicians will have to listen to us. And all I am is the front man in Washington being your voice up there. And the quickest way to affect change will be to get me in Washington and send the good conservatives that are up there, and there are a few, but send them the cavalry, and I'm the cavalry, and here I come.
Thank you.
The Bill of Rights has not been amended since its ratification on December 15, 1791. How do you justify, if any, the Patriot Act and its suggested violation on all or most of the 10 amendments?
The problem with the Patriot Act is it's just like so many laws in Washington. It's overly complicated, and it's very difficult to decipher what the actual effects are on individual liberties. So I think we have to be very, very concerned about privacy rights of individuals when we look at the Patriot Act. Yet I still have a strong belief in national security. And I believe there are portions of that act that will protect national security. But I don't think that should come at the expense of privacy rights of individuals. And so what happens is they write these bills, and this is career politicians in Washington, they write these bills in a way that they could argue their case either way in court. And it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. You can bring something to court, and the reason why they can bring these things to court is because it's too complicated. And a lot of it doesn't even make any sense. You can ask constitutional scholars what one part of the Patriot Act means. You'll have one constitutional scholar who says one thing and one constitutional scholar who says another thing. We need to make government simple. From the Patriot Act on down to every single bill that is written, there is no need to overcomplicate these things, because what can be well-intentioned often has the effect of hurting the citizens of this country, and that's what we got to get away from.
Thank you.
Share your views on in-state tuition for illegal aliens.
I don't think we should be giving in-state tuition to illegal aliens, bottom line. Yeah.
Would you care to elaborate on that and the reasons why?
Well, I think one, if you're in this country illegally, you should not be getting benefits to citizens of this country that struggle to get. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I just firmly don't believe it. We don't have the money, one, to be handing out that money, much less to people who are here that have broken the law.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What is your stand on the social issues? You have mentioned that already, but gay marriage, abortion, etc. Just to restate those.
The great thing about social issues and using it as a barometer for who you elect into office is that if you show me a social conservative, I will show you a fiscal conservative. The two go hand in hand. If you show me a fiscal conservative, I can't always show you a social conservative. Oftentimes I can. But I would say 99% of the time a social conservative is going to be fiscally conservative, because it has to do with the moral fiber of this nation and where they want this country to go. I was raised Catholic. I believe in the sanctity of life, and I will do everything in my power to protect it. And I was taught from an early age that marriage is between a man and a woman. And that's my religion. That's what my religion teaches me. The moral fiber of this nation is there. And when you look at that, you can then decide on your financial decisions as well. And that's being responsible. And we're not being responsible with our money. And that's why I think it's a good barometer of a politician. So I would urge everyone out there to look to social conservatives, because I guarantee you they'll be a strong fiscal conservative when they get there, and that's exactly what I'll be.
Thank you.
In regards to bailouts, if you do get into office, would you vote against them, and why?
I don't think the government should have any role in free markets. America is a free market society. This country was built on free markets and entrepreneurship. And people make wild sums of money when they win, and people go broke when they lose. But they know the game when they get into it. The government cannot be in the game of picking winners and losers. And the only way to let the free markets work is to keep the government out of the way. So when you get the government putting their mitts and trying to get markets to operate in the way that they want them to, the whole system gets messed up. And it is the reason why we're where we're at today. Our economy is in the tank, in large part because the federal government, they're spending, they're over-regulation, and they're trying to control markets that they cannot control. So I believe we've got to stop bailouts, we've got to stop bailing out companies and industries and get government out of the way, let the free markets work. Sometimes people get hurt, but that's the way America is. Sometimes people become wildly successful too, and I want to make it easier for that to happen for people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which violations of our Bill of Rights that you see are of most importance to you and your family, perhaps personally? What are you most perhaps passionate about in terms of protecting? I understand all of them are important. Maybe if you could highlight. And how would you address these areas if elected?
So that question, we could go on for 30 minutes.
Yes,
Sure.
absolutely.
Because our individual liberties are infringed on in just about every single thing we do. All the way down to red light cameras, okay? So whether we're talking about religious freedoms and Obama trying to ram down our throats his views about mandates, it's wrong. Whether we want to talk about the right to keep and bear arms and anti-carry laws that the left tries to put through and infringes on my right to keep and bear arms. The list is great. Whether you want to talk about taxes. And taxes, you could say, we are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, the taxation that we have in this country inhibits life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's out of control. And the government is out of control with its intrusive nature in our lives at almost every level. We could find something when we walk out this door where the government is trying to control our lives. We've got to get government out of the way.
Thank you. What are your feelings about Agenda 21, and if in office, what would you do to fight it?
So Agenda 21 comes out of the United Nations. I say anything that comes out of the United Nations we need to throw in the trash. We don't need anyone or any other entity telling the United States or any local or county municipality or state agency how to do their business. I would do everything in my power to fight against Agenda 21 and to keep it off of any American law books, whether it's from the federal level all the way down to city government.
Thank you. What do you think about the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and what will your stance be? What is your stance in regards to it, and what would your stance be if you were to be elected into office?
We need to do everything we can to overthrow and overturn Obamacare, is what you're talking about. Obamacare is right up there at the top of the list of infringements on our individual liberties. You cannot mandate people to have insurance. And again, there may be parts of that healthcare law that was well-intentioned, but it made a mess of our American system. It made a complete mess of it. The whole thing needs to be scrapped. And again, the way we solve healthcare is by getting government out of the way. The government currently controls 50% of the healthcare markets in the United States. That means when the government sneezes, everybody else catches pneumonia. It's wild. We got to overturn Obamacare, let free markets and private enterprise take over healthcare. Let the decisions be made between doctors and patients, not some bureaucrat in Washington.
Thank you.
Do you know that the United States of America is a republic and not a democracy? Could you explain to us the difference between the two?
So we are a representative government and a republic. So hopefully the voters will send me to Washington to represent them. not everybody in the United States gets to vote on laws in Washington. For the most part, the system works. I mean, we can't have every voter voting on every law. It's just not feasible. Sadly, though, there are some drawbacks to the system because we have career politicians. It's a representative government, right?
Correct.
Correct.
They don't represent me anymore. They represent their self-interests. They have put self-interest over national interests and secrecy over transparency. And that's the kind of behavior that needs to end. Our forefathers would be turning over in their graves if they saw what was going on in Washington today and what career politicians have done to Washington.
Thank you.
Thank you for the answer.
Are you a member of any, however you would define it, elite special interest group? Are you affiliated with the Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, or Bilderberg Group, or anything of that nature?
No, I am a member of one elite special interest group, the NRA. And I believe in my right to keep and bear arms. The NRA is a special interest group, and I'm proud to be a member of it.
Good, thank you for that answer. Did you know that politicians in history have created a legal constitution of the United States of America for the corporation and not the country, and that they're using it to replace the lawful constitution for the United States of America? Are you familiar with that concept?
Well, I know that currently career politicians have made a mess of our Constitution, okay? And what's happened in Washington is people go up there, and the bottom line, my opponent, Kenny Marchant, went to Washington. His net worth went from $25 to $50 million, okay? He won't explain how his net worth went from 25 to 50 million. And don't get me wrong, I love everyone to be very, very wealthy, and I wish everyone could double their net worth in a 2-year period that was during the worst economic crisis in American history. He won't explain how he did it. One of the ways I think how politicians do that is because they've rigged the system that the laws that they live by are not the same laws that we live by. And they go and manipulate the Constitution or don't even live by it when they go to represent us in Washington. That's what's caused us the mess that we're in.
Thank you.
Thank you. What is your thought on the Second Amendment of the Constitution? Some of it we've discussed already. And why do you think the founders, the founding fathers of our country who formed those documents and included that in the Bill of Rights were so adamant to include it in the founding documents?
Well, you all know the line is, freedom of speech. The Second Amendment is there to protect that, right? It is key to everything. I mean, it is our own right to protect our pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. An interesting story yesterday, I'm out walking a neighborhood, and it was a nice neighborhood in northwest Dallas, part of District 24, and a woman said, as I knocked on the door, she said, be careful, she says, as you're knocking on doors, there's been some carjackings in the neighborhood, so people are hesitant to open the doors. So I said, okay, well, thank you for that. Now, I have a concealed handgun license. So I quickly proceeded to walk down to my car and get out of my glove compartment, my little 9mm, and I put it in my pocket, and I continued to walk and knock on doors with a concealed handgun on me, because it was to protect my freedom of speech to go and knock on doors and hope to get people to vote for me and tell them about what I think is wrong with this country, and most importantly, hear what they think is wrong with this country. But it's a little story about how that works and how it works in everyday life. I mean, here she says her neighborhood, a nice neighborhood, they're being terrorized by carjackers. How scary would that be? They need, if they would like to be able to carry a weapon to protect themselves, just as I did that day.
Thank you.
One question, will you take an oath not to be co-opted in Washington? I know it's a loaded question, but a lot of what we want to find out is how stern people will be once in office.
Here's the sad part is, you guys have probably been doing this for a while. The fact that you need to get a politician to take an oath that he won't be corrupted in Washington is ridiculous. I don't need to take an oath to tell you that. You ask the people around me, you go up there and you be who you are, and you be a principled leader, and you stand firm for your convictions. And the Bible and the Constitution should dictate all of your actions. The fact that you need to sign an oath for that, it is very, very sad that someone would need to sign an oath for that. Would I sign it? I've almost said I was going to take a pledge not to sign any pledges, because there's pledges, you know, everywhere. I don't think we should need to send leaders to sign a pledge for that. Of course I sign it because I'm not gonna go against it. But the bottom line is, if an elected leader does go against it, you need to send them packing. Kenny Marchant, my opponent, secured a $2.4 million earmark for a company the man held stock in. If you ask me, that's corrupted. Maybe we should have asked him to sign that oath when he first took office. It's sad too many politicians need to sign that oath. You won't have to worry about that with me.
Thank you. If you were to make it into office, could you maybe highlight, I know there's a lot of examples you could give, we have limited time here, but could you mainly highlight maybe some taxes you would propose cutting? Everyone's talking about cutting taxes, cutting taxes, cutting taxes. As you well know, they kind of fail to be specific.
Right.
They're kind of afraid to take a stance. Do you have anything in mind that you see that you would perhaps cut in terms of taxes?
My sign behind me says bold leader, bold solutions. You listen to Republican leadership, and I'm a Republican, but you listen to leadership, and they say, we need comprehensive reform. Comprehensive reform this, comprehensive reform that. You never hear an actual solution to the problem. When you talk about taxes, I believe in the fair tax. It's a 23% national consumption tax that does away with the IRS altogether. If you make $35,000 a year, you keep $35,000. If you make $1 million, you keep $1 million. Basically, the state of Texas has a sales tax. We would turn that into a national sales tax throughout the country. Do away with the IRS altogether. All those taxes goes away. I firmly believe the economy would be kicking if we did that. You can go to my website, grantstinchfield.com, for information on the fair tax, or I urge you to go to fairtax.org without me taking up your time to explain it. But it would help the state that we're in tremendously.
And just to clarify, I know you were very clear in your answer, so we appreciate that, but that would replace the current tax system.
It would throw out.
So not in addition to it.
No, it would throw out the current tax code. So here's what happens: as I go around North Texas talking to people, I get a third of the people say they like a flat tax. A third of the people say they like the fair tax, the consumption tax, and a third of the people, for whatever reason, they say keep it the same. What that tells me is 2/3 of the people say scrap the whole system. They say scrap the system. So to do that, because I'm a thoughtful leader, is I know we're not going to be able to get a fair tax through right away. So I want to go to territorial taxation. The first bill I'll introduce when I get to Washington is you pay the tax in the territory where you made it. We're talking about corporate taxes here. If a company goes to Italy and makes makes profits in Italy, they pay the Italian tax, then the money can come back home tax-free. Okay, that's territorial taxation. Right now there's $1.6 trillion of American profits sitting offshore that we will never see the light of day coming back to this country because of the crazy tax structure that we have here. We moved to territorial taxation. If we have to take a step to a flat tax first because that has a little more support, then I'm okay with that. I'm okay to moving to a flat tax and then ultimately moving to the fair tax. So I understand we maybe have to take baby steps to get there, but we have to do something. You know, one more thought on taxes. Career politicians say we need to change the tax code, we need to do this, we need to do that. It's something like 65,000 pages long. And miraculously, every year, what do these career politicians do? They add more pages to the tax code. My opponent, Kenny Marchant, sits on Ways and Means. They write tax code on that committee. Yet he says comprehensive reform. Well, I ask you and anybody else there watching this video, ask him what has he done to reduce the number of pages of that tax code. Before that, coincidentally, he sat on banking. What a mess banking was in. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Right. This relates to the previous question a little bit. Considering that you're a small business owner and that the small businesses are hindered with a tax burden that is very hard to overcome, what would you do to help in that regard?
Well, the fair tax does that because it does away with all taxes. So there's no more corporate tax. And I'll just use the example of my quick car oil change business. I charge $34.99 for an oil change. You do away with the current tax structure, and you're talking about a 23% sales tax on top of the $34.99. Here's the beautiful part about it. Everybody says, well, I don't want to pay on top of that. I don't want to buy a car and pay 23%. If you took away taxes out of my books, at my Quick Car, I don't have to pay payroll taxes anymore. I don't have to pay income taxes anymore. I don't have to pay capital gains taxes anymore. I don't have to pay compliance with the tax code, which costs a lot of money. My $34.99 oil change now comes down to maybe $29. So now you add 23% onto that, you're going to be close to what you were paying before. Whether it's an oil change or a Cadillac, the same thing's going to happen.
Thank you for that answer.
Thank you. Would you be open to closing the government, shutting it down per se, as some people have characterized as shutting it down, closing the government, if a budget is not presented and approved? Another way, or would you support a continuing resolution? You know, whatever. I understand that's ambiguous, but that's what they've been doing here recently. What's your viewpoint on that dynamic that's been happening in Washington?
I would ask you to, if you have a budget for your families, and I would bet that you say yes.
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 The fact that the federal government does not have a budget now for going on years is insane. Okay? We have to get a budget. We need to not only cut our budget, we need to cap how much we spend, and we need to get a real numbers there. Okay? It's crazy. So you asked, would I be willing to shut down the government? Here's the wild thing, and you almost fell into the liberal trap. The liberals want you to think that if we don't raise the debt ceiling, that we have to shut down the government. That is absolutely false. I'd be willing to shut down the government, but I'd put a 99% chance we don't have to shut down the government. We have revenue coming in. All we need to do is pass laws that'll say what the money gets spent on first. Okay? We want to pay our troops in the field. We want to pay our people who get Social Security that depend on that. And we go down the line and prioritize it. We could do that legislatively by not increasing the debt ceiling while we're fighting over making sure that we have a budget. Don't let the liberals make you think that the world ends when we don't raise the debt ceiling. Apparently, they tricked my opponent into that. Kenny Marchant came home and said he wouldn't raise the debt ceiling. And then I don't know who he went back up to Washington and talked to. He went up there and voted to increase it. Well, this thing had been being quietly increased over and over and over again, but until the Tea Party came and demanded accountability, that's only when we realized just how crazy things were. Yet, Kenny Marchant still voted to increase the debt ceiling. We've got to send leaders to Washington who are willing to say no and who are willing to say enough is enough.
Thank you.
If you make it into office, will you promise to support all pro-life legislation and never support any pro-choice legislation?
Absolutely. We need to stop funding any federal money going towards any association that's associated with abortions. Bottom line, that's key. I'm sure any candidate that runs in District 24 is going to be on board with that, that's running as a conservative Republican.
Thank you.
Thank you. Term limits, and this is our last question we have here, unless there's any maybe follow-up questions if you want to clarify. Term limits of those in office can reduce the personal influence that some legislators have over other legislators in terms of their tenure in office. Are you for or against having term limits, and why, if you could explain?
Everywhere I go, I tell people right off the bat I'm going to term limit myself 8 years, providing I get reelected and the voters want me there. 8 years is enough time to serve in Washington. I'm on board. If we get to an agreement where they say 12 years, where they say 6 years, let's get it done. I knock on doors over and over again. I have only met one person who says they're not for term limits. Kenny Marchant. That's a joke.
Yeah.
But I've only met one person in all the doors that I've knocked on since September who said they're not for term limits. Yet career politicians will tell you, oh, we can't get a constitutional amendment to get it done. I ask you, why not? Did they try? I really don't think they've even tried. So we've got to get that done.
Well, George Washington term limited himself. He just chose not to run again.
Well,
and that's what some of these could choose to do. I'm sure you'll agree.
And that's what I would choose to do as well. So I'll follow in George Washington's footsteps. He'd be a pretty good guy to follow. It's no coincidence that my son's initials is GW.
Ah.
So, Grant Wyatt.
Well, thank you, Mr. Stinchfield. We appreciate the time that you've given us, and that would be all.
Thank you. It's good service you folks do here. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.